Yeah. Welcome everybody. My name is Ron DeYoung. I am a drummer and improviser, and I also am I guess, founder or creator of a s- s- yeah. At this point, it'll be a annual series called Once, and maybe some other projects along the way. And then, of course, this is Once Spoken, where we have conversations with improvisers all over. So operations and non-permanent collective extemporization. So today we have Jonathon Wilcke. They are a saxophone player from Calgary, Alberta, and uh, we've been lucky to have been able to have played music together for many years. And what I love about Jonathan's playing is how they've gone through their journey with variations on the instrument, and also to see how their vocabulary and their language has changed and morphed and worked into different ways uh, with that. So that's a very, very creative
Sure.
person, someone I admire a great deal and always love to play with.
Thank you, Ron.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so great that you are able to do this, and we can have a chat. And these are meant just to be chats, so far,
Yeah.
these opportunities just to chat about things. I have asked this before of different people, but it's always fun to know, where did it all start for you? Where did the spark happen? Whether it's the instrument, the different
Mhm.
kinds of music you found yourself in, and so forth.
Oh, okay. Well, like a lot of people, I started out in elementary school band, and it was my mother's encouragement. Because I was raised in the Crow's Nest Pass, and you never saw anybody do anything there. There was a symphony orchestra there, but like it never occurred to me that I could play in a band or what that meant. So my mother encouraged me to do something, and I don't know how this came about, but along the way, I just, of course, this was the 80s. There was no internet. We had CBC TV and radio, but that was about it. And so I think I probably came across this stuff possibly through the CBC. But somehow at an early age, I learned about Ornette Coleman and Roland Kirk, and the Brazilian musician Hermeto Pascoal. I don't know if you know Hermeto or not.
Yeah, of course.
Um, and I saw Hermeto on TV. I couldn't tell you how I learned about Ornette or Roland Kirk. Maybe the CBC, I'm not sure, and then, when we went on a road trip, we would go to a record store and I randomly bought New York Is Now, and by Ornette Coleman, and and also the Shuffle Demons.
Oh
I had
yeah.
heard of the Shuffle Demons.
Oh yeah. I got to see
On
them live one
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah, they're tremendous.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. I saw them just in the jazz festival here in Calgary in June.
Right. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
you made
And
a mention of that, which
yeah.
is
I got to meet
cool.
Rich Underhill and I poured my heart out to him because the Shuffle Demons were really important to me when I was a kid because they were the only group of living musicians playing anything like jazz that I
Right.
had ever heard of before, right? Keeping in mind,
Yeah.
the Crow's Nest Pass, and this kind of thing. Yeah, so that's how I got started. Like I said, I don't remember how I heard about these people. And then I thought that everybody knew about Ornette Coleman and Roland Kirk and stuff like that. But
That's
when I got to school, those were obviously the wrong influences.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Uh, I had thought that when you went to music school, when you went to university, because, when I was in high school, I did whatever music I could. I played in the high school band. There was a very small jazz combo. I played in regional music festivals. But there were no other people in the Crow's Nest Pass playing jazz.
Yeah.
or trying to figure that out. And I had no opportunity to interact with any professional musicians of any kind. Just mainly just kind of playing and working on my own. And I was really surprised. Is everything okay? Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was really shocked to figure out that, that wasn't the case. I had the idea that a professional musician was a person that explored their own art on their own and made their own music. That was not most people's sense of what that was. And I thought that you met people with similar interests and worked with them. And no, that wasn't the case. And I had my first university saxophone teachers said to me, I don't know what you're playing, but you're certainly not playing jazz. And so yeah, so a big part of my journey and where I started is actually the fact that I quit playing for about 7 years in my 20s, because music school was not it was not for me. Just a matter of being in the wrong place. I had no idea that you could go to York or something like that, right? Because
Sure.
again, Crow's Nest Pass, rural area. My parents, they were musical, but they were actually dismayed when my brother and I became very serious about playing.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't know what to do. And actually, what I did was I discovered avant-garde and contemporary poetry, and Calgary was a great place to be involved in that in the mid to late 90s. So I stopped playing the saxophone because I really couldn't see what to do with it anymore, and got involved in, I think avant-garde writing in poetry, that's the free jazz of poetry, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So I did that for a while, but then and then I lived in Japan, and then in my late 20s, I came back to Calgary, and I met Darren Williams. I know you know,
Hmm.
a saxophonist, and I saw him. He was doing a concert series at the time, and I saw Ab Bars, and I realized, oh, this is what you can do here. And So I kind of had a musical rebirth at that point in my late 20s. Yeah, so that's I had so in a way I've had an early start to my playing, to the technical aspects of my playing, but a late start to the development of my art. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's where I'm coming from. Yeah,
that's amazing. The fact too, like how old were you when you bought that New York Is Now record?
14
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean that's amazing. At that age,
Yeah.
even myself, I'm not buying New York Is Now. In fact, it's only a couple years later that I hear the name Ornette Coleman or Roland Kirk
Mm,
or anything
yeah.
like that. So that's extraordinary. And the fact too, though, that it's sitting there and kind of waiting or percolating, but you found other avenues to be creative in that way. Because I think we probably first met maybe around that time of that Odd Bars concert.
Yeah, we would
When
have
we
met the
first,
year after. Oh no, yeah, it would have been about then. Yeah,
yeah, because I know did Darren bring him in a couple of times or just
I only remember once. Yeah.
yeah, and maybe then that's when we first met. But again, too, like at that point, everything is sort of coming at you uh, at just light speed, and it's so incredible. It's like that's been going on. I remember my first experience of here. I got a play copy when I was working at Sam the Record Man of Clusona Trio,
Mm,
and I just went, what is happening? My whole life is becoming it's just extraordinary, right? So
yeah,
those
yeah,
moments where, because yeah, I had been listening to jazz music, but it's the same thing. Like I really can appreciate how you mentioned how you kind of feel like you're an island, and you kind of think, well, even though I love this or I've discovered this or I'm attracted to this, how do I find myself uh, in a way that I can actually express myself on this instrument or are there rules? Like you're so green and so
yeah,
but you need leadership. You need people like you said, like pouring your heart out at the Shuffle Demons concert is like
yeah,
just to know to say to a person because of you. I was able to understand that there's something like this happening out there in a variation on a form within the universe of, what we call jazz and improvised music and such. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Well, I remember too when I first met you, what I loved about it's sort of like you were I knew you were writing, and you gave me a copy of something that I still have. I can't remember which one, but I should have pulled it off of the shelf downstairs. But and it was a way to understand kind of what you had been doing, and then but when we started to kind of play or first get into that when we went to VCMI
yeah,
in Vancouver, I recognized that um, there had been this sort of it's like a pressure cooker of
yeah,
ideas, and you were just you blew my mind, like literally, because it was sort of like everything that had been kind of coming out in the one sort of way creatively, but there was this other stuff that had been because at 14 years old, you don't listen to New York Is Now and then just go, okay, well, like you dug it for a bit and then like that just stays with you and just
yeah, yeah,
pulls at you. And and so I loved that. There was a fire in your playing that still exists, like without question. And it's I guess that's certain, but that pressure cooker of artistic ideas where there was so much stuff coming out, and I was like, holy mackerel, how am I going to be able to match working
oh,
with?
really? Well, it's generous of you.
Oh man, absolutely. Just so inspiring and so wonderful to be able to experience that. And of course, just getting to know you and just, you have one of the best sense of humor that I've ever had. So it's one thing I love about, and because you meet different cats along the way, and and it's no disparaging of folks, but some folks just don't have a certain sense of humor. They can't lighten up. Everything gets a bit too serious. And I always appreciate when you can just like, I think it's probably why I was attracted to certain kinds of music in the early days of discovering, improvised music or what was happening in England or in the Netherlands or in Germany, and just how much humor has to be there to be able to
Yeah,
manage through it and not get too heavy, um, which I always enjoyed. So
yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. What a journey. And like your instrument too, was it a matter of when your mom encouraged you and you were going to go do, sort of the like at school and such? Is it literally, here, Jonathan, we think you should play this? Could it have been any
Yeah, pretty
instrument?
much. No, she asked me what I wanted to play, and I said I wanted to play the flute. I
Hmm,
don't know why, just that's what I picked. And she
sure.
said, no, I shouldn't play the flute because I have to hold my mouth funny. I should play the saxophone instead. She had played the saxophone in high school and didn't continue it after that, but she's passed now, and as I've gone through her yearbooks and memorabilia, it looks like she did what I did. She played as much as possible, and she was in the United States, so they're in St. Paul, Minnesota. So there was a marching band, and things you'd never heard of here, a pep band, and
Oh my
whatever
goodness.
whatever the hell pep is,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then her older brother had also played the saxophone.
Okay.
And her father, and I don't really know because they never really talked about their family, but her father in the earlier years was a professional violinist,
Wow.
and ended up being a boiler operator for some reason. So I don't know
Yeah.
how that came about, but yeah, she says here you play the saxophone, and so they got me an alto saxophone. After a few years, I managed to convince them to buy like a better quality, like a professional quality alto saxophone. And yeah, so just in terms of my instrument, I'm not really good at doubling like a lot of saxophone players also
Hmm.
play the clarinet and the flute, and I can play those instruments rudimentarily, but I've only ever played one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So I played exclusively alto for 20 years,
Yeah.
and then exclusively tenor for 15 years. And for the last 4 years, I've been playing only soprano.
Yeah, which I really have found very interesting because when I met you, you were playing alto,
Yeah, yeah,
and then and then we had done our recording with John Charles Tactic,
yeah. Hmm.
and you're playing tenor on there,
Yeah.
and now soprano. So is it just kind of is it just kind of finding where your voice is best represented in that regard? As
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like,
you-
I'm attracted to the idea of just doing one thing
Sure.
and mastering one thing. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And earlier, I guess I just thought that, oh, I should just play alto because that's what I have.
Mm.
Because also my mentality is organized. I was raised by people who were raised by people that survived the 30s.
Yeah.
And so my mental, and also a lot of how I've worked and how I've been forced to work is in isolation.
Right.
And so, I'm not thinking back. I wish I would have had a soprano earlier. But I was like, well, for a while, tenor is good enough. One thing is good enough to work on, and I was content with playing just tenor. But had been thinking about getting a soprano for a number of years, and have been putting it off actually because I don't know if you know this, especially in this part of the world, but it's hard to find, especially a soprano saxophone of any quality.
That surprises
Uh,
me.
it's
Yeah.
not easy to do.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and especially now. Like you're always able to find a good, like in the horns I like Japanese. And so it was easy enough to find the tenor and the alto.
Okay.
But you got to sift through a lot of crap if you want to find a good soprano. And they're also extremely expensive.
Mm.
And I'm very stubborn. Like I'm not willing to pay $7,000 for a horn.
Oh, sure. Well, that's
Uh,
very
and so,
reasonable to say
yeah,
so.
right. And so part of the reason it took me so long to get to playing the soprano was, I mean, I guess I just put it off because of the difficulty of trying to find one. And to this day, like in Calgary, you can't go buy a mouthpiece at the music store. You can't do it. They
Wow.
don't have any. Because saxophone, and I think this is pretty silly, but among, at least uh, certain pockets of jazz communities who tend to be reserved, if not conservative. The saxophonists believe things like, oh, the soprano, well, you can't play it in tune, or it's so difficult, or nobody likes the soprano saxophone.
Right.
It's part of the I think we complain as artists in a place like Alberta about the fact that what we do is incredibly devalued.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
but within communities of arts too, people are, I think they're afraid to try to do new things or they're afraid to be different.
Yeah.
So this kind of rural conformity infects a lot of things, unfortunately, that it
Yeah.
shouldn't infect because artists and creative people are supposed to be like on the vanguard of, if nothing else, being yourself. Uh,
Absolutely.
you know, and I hate to complain too much, but
Oh, no.
yeah, so that's why it's difficult to find
Mm.
soprano equipment because saxophonists tend to say things like, "Oh, it's too difficult. It doesn't play in tune. Nobody likes it. Why would you do that?" And so it's a supply and demand problem.
Interesting. Yeah.
Pro saxophonists who might need a soprano saxophone will just go and buy like a Yamaha off the shelf, get a Selmer mouthpiece, stock equipment, and play it as little as possible.
Interesting.
Right, because it's the least favorable saxophone in a lot of ways.
That's interesting,
But
especially now.
yeah, yeah,
And especially in a day and age where, I mean, again, you just very clearly and absolutely accurately described how that even in places like Calgary and Edmonton, I mean, we have these sort of bustling metropolis in a
yeah.
lot of
Oh
ways,
yeah,
but that rural sort of thing just kind of, and again, that's no
yeah,
knock to people, all our friends out in the rural world there, but they know what we're talking about too, because they would understand that even though you want to go like this or do this, it's still like, well, that's kind of
Yeah.
not how it's done, or maybe you shouldn't try things like that. And with the incredible archive of artists who have created with soprano saxophone for as an example, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's just no excuse. So I imagine that same story would be here. I imagine it wouldn't be any different here where you're trying to find an instrument like that. I mean, Calgary and Edmonton really mirror each other in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that whole thing you just described is an absolute surprising thing to me. But I think maybe because we tend to have that same personality where we're not content with just being given, well, that's just how it is. It's like, well, no, I'm
Yeah.
gonna find a way to get what I need,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if it takes getting something from well, obviously from a very different part of the world to get what is required to make this happen, then
Yeah.
within the reason of course of economics as well, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's interesting. I've hoarded mouthpieces ever since I've been able to buy them.
okay.
Because especially since like I don't know I don't to me something like eBay or something is you want to look at it, you want to
Oh
touch
yeah,
it, especially if you're going to shell out for it. And so whenever a mouthpiece of any quality would come through town here, I would buy it, even though I don't use it and I won't use it.
yeah,
I'm hoarding it.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's like an
Just in
immersive,
case.
absolutely that, and I don't mind that just in case. I have that same mentality in a lot of ways. I'll see certain things. I'll see a pair of drumsticks. Like I even in Calgary when we were there last, I ended up buying a couple of pairs of drumsticks at one of the Long McQuaid's, I think. Yeah, it was. And I've just never seen it on the shelf. Sure, I could order it. And, at the end of the day, I probably would have done that. But there it was. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting both pairs that are sitting here. And they were straight. And because I wanted to try these out so badly,
Yeah, yeah,
because you hear about them and like this player likes it, this player doesn't like it for whatever reason. So, yeah, so you sort of hoard things that
yeah,
you find because, surprisingly, even in places that you'd think they'd just be dropping out of the sky, sometimes it's not as simple as that.
yeah,
So, and then
yeah, yeah,
especially out here in Alberta, like yeah,
yeah. And then in the current political situation, which has made getting stuff a bit harder,
yeah,
like it is, I don't know, I'm kind of, my feeling is that it'd probably be a bit easier to get drum equipment than it would be to get, saxophone things. But,
for sure. Yeah. I think, excuse me, it's a matter of I think in many cases with the way things have gone with instruments is that really high quality instruments or instruments that um, even are considered to be affordable at a high quality that will it's more and more rare. And so
mm,
that's the difficulty is actually going in and getting something that is like not going to be something that's going to break or something
yeah, yeah,
wear out very, very quickly.
yeah, yeah,
And so yeah, so that could be the same case. And then of course with so many things, I you know, I don't even look at a lot of certain things anymore because it's just doesn't it's just the run of the mill with all due respect. It's just because the gone are the days, and I imagine, I mean, you could go into a Long McQuaid back in the 90s, and this is a very different time during the these with the industry of instruments period, and,
yeah,
and go in, and it was like they kind of had one of everything. There
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
two of everything.
yeah, yeah,
A
yeah,
new thing would come out that was really cool, especially with symbols or something, and it would be there, and it'd be
yeah,
literally there because, like you said, it's like I want to touch it, I want to actually hear it, and so. And those just don't exist anymore. Like ever
yeah,
so often you'd be like, oh my gosh, this thing's actually in the wild. How has that
yeah, yeah,
happened? So
yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
I was going to say too, with your transitions between those different horns, and so I just listened to your newest record. Um, sorry, it's My Horn is Straighter Than Me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what a great record, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of you.
Oh, it's beautifully recorded by Chris, and
Yeah.
you know, but what I loved about it is getting your earlier solo record too, and just hearing, and then also having some other records with you, like you played one of my favorite records is with Joe Morris, who at this point I
Yeah.
think in every once spoken I've at least mentioned once or twice or eight times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but how you've taken the different ways of the instrument and really worked at exemplifying what's in that instrument to its highest order. But this newest record is just such a treat. Like,
Oh, thank you.
oh yeah, I'm
That's good to hear. When I
yeah,
listen
oh
to it, I can just hear the flaws, but
yeah, trust me. Yeah, always our worst enemies, right? We're just sit back.
yeah,
But yeah, so folks, go to Bandcamp and look up Jonathan's many recordings. You have a really great archive of
I
some
put a
great.
few things up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff that's been, as they say, in the can for a while. And I think it's wonderful. I have a bad habit of sort of forgetting about things or trying to get those kinds of things going myself. But it was just wonderful to see this great archive of different time periods in your creativity, and then it leading
Oh,
up
thank you.
to
Yeah.
specifically this newest record, which is fantastic. Um, yeah, so like I can hear how your techniques from previous and being even playing with you have come through on specifically this record and how you've worked some of those ideas, but also pulled from those different instruments, almost like you're forcing in a very, very creative and respectful way. Well, how do you say it? Not, you respect the instrument, but you don't respect the fact that you're like, no, no, this instrument can do more and it will do.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love that. And you can hear it. And I think that's a really, really cool thing to hear because of what you mentioned before and how it's been described. Wow, it's difficult to play. It goes out of tune. People have one just maybe to look super hip on the stage and play it for one tune, and then it gets ignored for the rest of the evening,
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
back into a case. And but I loved how you took from what you had and applied it to that, but then also utilized the soprano for all its sort of magical elements.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of good things in there. I think the fact, I don't know, is it more difficult? I don't know. Like, is tuning more difficult? Yeah, maybe.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like the flaw I noticed with the recording is that I don't know. My Some of the phrases I noticed when I'm holding the note, my pitch goes up, and I didn't notice that while I was playing.
Okay,
Maybe others wouldn't notice that, but and so I mean, I suppose there is that difficulty. I think actually alto is the hardest saxophone to play.
interesting.
Yeah, I think it's harder tuning wise. I think it's less easy to produce like the interesting parts, like the multiphonics and the split sounds. All of that comes a bit more with more difficulty. It's harder to produce a satisfactory tone consistently, I think. But also, I'm not in. A lot of players be like, okay, you pick your tone, you pick your player, you imitate their tone, and you master that particular tone. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in having several kinds of tones.
Absolutely.
And it's harder to do that on the alto. Whereas tenor, every note is a multiphonic. You can split any tone. It's the easiest one as far
Right,
as I'm concerned.
right.
It's easy to play in tune. And I don't really play baritone. To be frank with you, I hate it. I like listening to it,
Yeah.
but I hate playing the baritone. And I did a stint on baritone in university in both jazz band and the concert band, and I'll never touch it again for any reason.
Well, it's what's cool is what you mentioned though is that you have tried them all,
Yeah,
which is really important. I don't know if every player does that.
yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I would say it's probably unlikely. I know, there are traditions where you see people playing specifically, like you said, they've kind of got all of the like two or three instruments kind of going regularly, and that's
yeah, yeah,
whatever creativity somebody has a connection to an instrument,
yeah.
then you do it that way. But um, the fact that you gave it and you actually, you didn't just try it and walk away, like you played it in
No,
university.
I worked on them for years,
Yeah, so
each of
you
them.
got a
Yeah,
sense of can this actually deliver creatively to me? And you're like, no, I actually hate this as a way
yeah,
to find my
yeah,
voice or find any kind of
yeah,
art out of it.
yeah,
And that's really, really interesting. I love that. So there we go. I see. I love that. The fact that you've kind of, you kind of expose an instrument that traditionally, like you said, has been easier to find and yet is quite a bit more difficult to play, or an instrument that, you do see so many tenor players, and the fact that you can achieve sort of everything with it without,
yeah,
you have to work at it, of course, but as anything, but that you can get all of those voicings and maybe that I was going to say, sorry, and I'm just thinking about how you're saying how those pitches change. Uh,
yeah.
Maybe that is about how your approaches to it come from those different instruments to that. So
It
you're
could be.
noticing it. I'm probably noticing a different uh, aspect of it and how you've taken your previous instruments and how you've improvised on them and played, and it's come out maybe in a way that maybe you're not necessarily directly happy with or content with at the moment, but does channel in that way. So I hear beautiful music, man, and
Oh, thank
that's
you. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and it's such an honest portrayal of your voice. I do love the nod to someone like Steve Lacy in there
yeah,
that you have, and I know, of course, Lacy is important to you because he's a person that ultimately sort of challenged the norms and did
yeah. Oh,
play an
yeah,
instrument that was
yeah,
very unpopular.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. He's not a bebopper.
Nope.
He doesn't use bebop phraseology at all, even when he's playing monk.
Yeah.
You know, he came up through ragtime and Dixieland stuff, and then went to monk.
Right.
And then,
Hmm.
what I like is he boiled everything down. And you listen to his solos and look at his transcriptions, and he's not playing eighth note phrases through the chord,
Right.
one or two notes in there. He's emphasizing intervals, and it's very spare. Yeah, I kind of wish I could play as few notes as he does, but I'm also interested in Ornette Coleman, uh, whose phraseology is quite notey. So, something in between. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, and Lacey is someone I keep going back to because, I'm interested in in the spareness of his playing and in his phrasing. I think I'm getting closer to, having that level of spareness. I really like the fact that, say with Lacey, he played only the soprano saxophone.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And he has this book out that I've studied out of and practiced out of almost every day called Findings.
Okay.
And it's oriented around the saxophone. And he boils everything down, all the scales you learn, all the chords you learn. If you learn what he tells you to learn, you essentially can play everything else. You might not know, maybe at the time, what, you know, the particular scale or chord you're looking for, but you can play it because he's boiled everything down into a system that makes everything playable. I think that's a really interesting way to go about it. I like stuff like bebop, but I'm not a bebopper.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, I like I like playing chord changes, but I get so caught up in the other things, like that I never actually get around to studying. I have a system that I use to get through chord changes, but I've never really played regularly
No.
in a jazz group either, other
Yeah.
than in big bands or something like that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know. I like the fact that Lacey is his lines are both based in harmony and something that sounds like jazz, but also not. They're a combination between something very dense and experimental and full of extended techniques, uh, laced with things that sound like jazz. Yeah, so he's someone that's been a good a teacher for me out here in the wild or in the bush
Yeah,
of Calgary.
yeah, no, it's true. If for folks who may not understand the places we live, and we live 3 hours apart, and again, they're pretty much mirror images, just different
Yeah, yeah,
geography and such. But both wonderful cities to go to. But yeah, no, exactly. It's trying to put something into the ether of our
yeah,
communities that really kind of defies what is typically maybe well, I would have to say it can be very expected from people. There's an
yeah,
expectation that you're going to do something very specific, and then you
yeah,
break it, and then you break the mold, and some folks love it, and some folks find it quite difficult.
yeah,
And that's fine.
yeah,
That's great. I think too, would you say that with Lacey and how you described, kind of your approach, I think about Monk, and even when Monk started, his tendency to go to the core elements of it and just the fewest notes possible
yeah,
to bring out the melody,
yeah,
that those colors, and just to bring that sparseness into it. Because I always think of the drummer Ben Riley who played with Monk.
mm,
I think one of the reasons why he played with Monk for so long is Monk loved how he just is like he's not playing a million miles an hour. He plays with intent, and everything's got a very specific, clear, identified um, character in the music, and
yeah,
I love that. It's like for lack of a better way of putting it, it's like a crispness,
yeah, yeah,
and you get that fullness of every note that they're playing with as few as that they are playing.
yeah, yeah,
That's amazing. And I love the
yeah,
fact too that you're going to Ornette, because like, yeah, Ornette, yeah, can be, or it is busy. But I
yeah,
but I think you've really nailed Ornette, and of course how much he's been part of your um learning strategies over your life. Um, for lack of a better way of putting it, and just
yeah,
how that challenges certain things to you to go, okay, well, I love that. You're kind of in between because taking certain types of idiom or language and kind of putting it towards what you need it to be. Because that's one thing why I love Han or the Dutch in many ways too,
yeah,
because they just love to swing.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
all, I think, at heart, in many ways, all, but so many of them want to be kind of time traveler beboppers, and then bam,
yeah,
they ram a huge dump truck into the whole thing,
yeah,
and then you start to get, and then it breaks into all of these little, like you said, you get distracted by all of the other intricacies of how you can make the different voicings, even as a solo player or within a group,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think that's just an amazing thing because I love that stuff too, as we do.
Oh yeah,
We grow up on it. You listen to it. We've all listened to all this stuff, and I'm constantly wanting to try to hear as much of it as possible to find how does it translate into anything that I can do and what you're doing, right? So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Now I've also liked Coltrane, speaking of notes and the amount of
Mm,
notes, Coltrane sheets of sound, you know that idea, the sheets of
absolutely.
sound,
Yeah,
that's always really appealed to me too.
yeah,
And I always, I don't think about it this way now, but when I first started coming across things like Mats Gustafsson and that kind of stuff, I always thought, well, the saxophone, and then in the improvisational situation, I don't know, maybe jazz people think about it like this. I'm not sure. I really don't have many jazz friends because,
yeah,
again, once you say Ornette Coleman, That's it for a lot. Of course, I continue to take saxophone lessons, and my current saxophone teacher now, however, is a straight ahead player, but he's refreshingly not like that.
Oh, good.
My first lesson, because he had heard of me, and I don't think he'd ever heard me play, but he was aware of what I do. He sat me down and looked at me and said, "Well, what the hell are you doing here?" Which was very flattering, right?
Absolutely. I
But
would respond the same way if I were in his
yeah,
position.
but it was because I can play changes okay, but I'm not one to take out. This is kind of my midlife crisis material. I'm trying to go back and try to figure out if I can be one of those who takes out the book of standards and can just competently play
I get it.
the changes there. Um, but the sheets of sound is a really interesting idea because I kind of thought about 20 years ago that one thing you could do with the saxophone, you know, I, I'm not being accompanied. I'm
Hmm.
not playing a solo, but I'm playing with the other people in the band at the same time. So why shouldn't the saxophone act as well like a drum kit?
Mm,
The drum kit's doing different things and has different registers and rhythms that it's playing, but it's using the whole instrument. So why can't the upper register and the lower register of the saxophone have this kind of drum kit relationship and be
uh,
constantly going, but maybe doing different things?
yeah.
In their registers, kind of like a sheets of sound idea. And I've
Yeah.
been criticized for playing like that.
Yeah.
One criticism I've had my whole life of playing uh, is that I play too many notes. But I deliberately do that, right? So this one guy I tried to play with in Vancouver a number of years ago told me I should spread out my phrases and things like that. And in some situations, yeah, I think that's the case. But on the other hand, when I'm playing in the group and I'm playing with others, especially with non-breathing instruments that don't have to pause for the sake of not passing out.
Yes.
Just to kind of keep up that texture is something
Yeah.
interesting thing to do, right?
Yeah. That's
So
very interesting. Well, when
yeah,
we last played together, like the duo we did in Calgary, what I found was great for me, and it's like it's super, I feel, it's like it's selfish because for me, I uh you delivered in those sheets of sound in many different ways. And I felt if you take it like it's like a sheet, but then it all of a sudden becomes a pool that you can wade in. I was
yeah,
able to wade in that pool and sort of bring out different pitches and sort of rhythms. So it allowed it to kind of spike out of the
mm,
maybe out of the pool and allow it to um, become kind of that sort of pointillistic on my part, but you had that. Not that you weren't also doing like you weren't allowing things to breathe, of course. But I really enjoyed that. And wow, that's interesting. I guess it's funny in a way when you have people criticizing a certain way that you're doing things. And I think one of those things is that it instead of it being criticized, it should just be like you're giving people challenges to think of it in a different way. And that's what I've always loved about playing.
mm,
You wouldn't necessarily say you don't have to always love playing with a certain style or if you like played with a person like, yeah, it's not I kind of find my creativity maybe works better in a different situation and that's whatever. That's totally fine. But it's also how you get challenged and it pushes you in ways that you were least expecting. And sometimes people who criticize because they want it to say,
mm,
no, I need it to be this, as opposed to accepting it for being
yeah, yeah,
quite different.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's absolutely
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
well, it's that to me. That's kind of like the if all you have. What does this saying go? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Or is that how it goes?
I think so.
You know,
Yeah.
um, that kind of approach.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Or the other thing I think of all the time is pearls before swine. Like
Yeah.
if you're, I often, frankly, I think I've done fairly well at Calgary in terms of my creativity and
Mhm.
uh, my interest mainly is the work. I
Yes.
want to do the work.
Yes.
And one thing I noticed about this environment is the first thing, having where I spent 9 years in Vancouver, the first thing people will say is, let's rehearse. The
Yes.
first thing people here say is, let's record.
Yes.
Um, you know,
Yes.
and uh, and to me, I've been interested in recording, but not as much as learning the instrument.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at hustling.
No.
I'd rather study the instrument.
Yeah.
There are some players that I won't name out there now that are getting a lot of good PR and stuff right now, but they can't
Yes.
play for shit.
Yeah.
See, what was the point of saying all this? I got lost in my thoughts
No, it's great. I
about
think
hustling.
what's
Uh,
so, yeah, no, I'm the same way. I find the hustle really, really difficult because I think of the time that it might take, and I'm very lucky to have my partner Kelly help so much with the hustle because she's gifted at being able to
yeah,
find things
yeah,
or at least poke and say, "Hey, people, can we get some playing in this your
yeah,
space or something like that?" Which again is so difficult
yeah,
at the best of times.
yeah,
Feel the same way. It's like the time that's there. I'd rather be like, how can I work on this part, this phrasing, so that I can artistically express myself. So the next time I play with Jonathan, we're going
yeah,
to be able to potentially either challenge each other or integrate things that will bring out stuff that's very magical and unexpected,
yeah, yeah,
which happens.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing is that the hustle can bring about a certain idea that folks are doing things and they're doing important things or relevant or something without
yeah,
them
yeah,
taking time to shed enough so that they can really go, yeah, how is it that I can really pull things in different ways with to the fullest sort of measures,
yeah,
and to be as creative as possible, as opposed to going, oh yeah, this is, I'm on a, you're on a wave, you're on a ride at that point.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, do you mind if like you're familiar with this book, I think, Joe Morris?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got a copy of that somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
I
I'm sure.
loaned it to somebody and I'm having a trouble relocating it. But yeah,
Oh
I've
my
read that
God.
a couple
Well, here,
times. Yeah.
I'll get you another copy. I was thinking of grabbing a couple of copies more. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're also, it gives him money and he's not
Yeah.
a millionaire. So I'm if he was, I don't care. He still deserves because he worked hard at the
Yeah.
book. But as you're probably aware, he did that set of questions.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
And what I like is I've liked to have done this where I'm peppering different people with different questions. And if it brings up something we've already talked about, who cares? This is our thing. So, but I think where was the one that I wanted to ask you? Yeah. Um, and it probably again is like we've kind of definitely delved into this as well. But question number four that he sent to all of these different musicians, what are the particular musical material or materials, i.e., melody, rhythm, sound, timbre, etc., or timbre, however you want to say it, that you choose to rely on to inform the improvised content of your work?
Hmm. I'm gonna ask you, there's a long list there. Could I have it one more time just so I can make
Sure,
sure
of
I
course.
understand? Yeah, let's have it one more time. I like
Yeah,
to be
absolutely. I
thorough.
know
Yeah.
I think this is the thing because people would actually get a chance to sit on these questions for
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
weeks on end. So it's a little unfair, but um so what are the particular musical material
Hmm.
or materials, i.e. melody, rhythm, sound, timbre or timbre, etc., that you choose to rely on to
Hmm.
form the improvised content of your work?
Hmm. Okay. I would say I'm less rhythmically oriented. Yeah, rhythm is certainly part of what you do, but I'm not a percussionist at all. I own a drum kit, but I don't know what to do. Uh, I've worked on uh, Louis Bellson's odd time reading text. You know that one quite a bit
Yes.
to kind of inform my rhythm. But I guess my main idea is that I think the saxophone plays you. You don't play the saxophone.
Interesting.
You've got to train yourself to intercept whatever the saxophone throws at you at any time. And so, the saxophone does things on its own.
Yeah.
And one of the things that it does is, it's not consistent pitch wise, or it'll play. One of the things which is interesting when you start out playing, you have to learn how to not play multiphonics or strange sounds. You have to learn how to kind of play more in the pocket, and then later on, this is how it usually goes, then you get it to do the squirrely stuff again. But from the very beginning, the saxophone wants you to experiment. It wants you to play extended techniques. And so, yeah, so to me, then I suppose in terms of that list of materials there, well, really, I'm more, if this makes any sense, I'm more interested in the saxophone than I am in music.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm more interested in the saxophone. And this is why I don't spend a lot of time working on jazz or something, or
Sure.
because I'm more interested in the saxophone and what it does. Yeah, so I think melody is interesting to me, um, but less so harmony. Like I'm interested in harmony, but I use harmony rather as a way to increase my palette of things that I can improvise with. So I study chord changes regularly and patterns regularly, but those are more contributing to palettes of sound
Sure.
that I can create. So I suppose in terms of that list, maybe melody is my principal thing, but in terms of timbre and stuff, I think of it as saxophonics, right? The things that the
Yeah.
saxophone can do specific to the saxophone, or what and those things I think I organize through melody. So again, stuff like I love multiphonics. That's why I talk about it a lot.
Sure.
I basically I have a couple of multiphonics books, and I sit down and I'm working my way through and memorizing all the fingerings and try to get them to work and stuff like that. So that's that. I play the saxophone from about 2 to 5 hours a day, and it takes that's about 2 hours there. I could easily give to just sitting with the book and making strange sounds.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I've answered your question there.
Oh,
That's
for
the main
sure.
idea. I organize what the saxophone can do through notions of melody, and I think rhythm is mainly a way of organizing the self in group situations. Finding, listening to other people's patterns and what they're doing, and trying to incorporate or integrate what I'm doing with what they're doing.
That's fantastic. It's funny,
Yeah.
you just answered the other question I was going to ask you.
Okay.
It's beautiful. That worked great, which is please describe the way or ways you consider pulse in your music.
Oh yeah. I remember when Joe was here a few years ago. Was that 2017? I think he was in
Okay.
Calgary,
Yeah.
and he talked a lot about pulse. Pulse not being rhythm, but I guess just or even predetermined rhythm or regular rhythm, but just one's own. Well, I guess pulse, one's own repetition, feeling of repetition in what they do. And he says, a person may be playing one thing on the instrument, but their body will be doing another. And I'm not very good at polyrhythmic thinking.
Yeah.
I have a math learning disability, which actually interferes with my ability to learn some conventional things.
Sure. Yep.
But I think there are several pulses that are going on all at once, right? There's the musical pulse, but not everyone has to be playing at that same pulse is different than tempo, obviously. You could have a group pulse that's different from the tempo that they're playing at. Um,
I
and
think,
so, yeah, like my relationship to pulse, it depends on, of course, all music is like this, but I think especially with improvised music, it's the social interaction between the players. That's really quite important in jazz anyway. And I talk about jazz because it's the only music I've really tried to play.
yeah.
Uh,
Same.
I've tried to play ska. I didn't like that. I used to get picked up to do studio work for rock bands and things. Not that good at that because I'm not that interested in listening to a lot of rock or pop music.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't, I think it's an interesting kind of music, and there's certainly things going on in there that I don't think I can understand. Some people say that rock or pop is harmonically less complex than jazz, which I suppose is true. But on the other hand, there's something going on there that I have no ear for. And The idea of writing lyrics, I mean, I've written books of poetry, but I can't write a song lyric
right. I hear what you mean.
unless it's very filthy. I can write very filthy, and political song lyrics.
Absolutely, which I love, by
Uh,
the way.
yeah, well,
It's
thanks, but
still flowing, my friend.
anyway, just in terms of the social interaction, I think that that's actually more important. A lot of improvisers think of what they're doing as non-hierarchical, right? Because in the jazz situation, the bass and the drums are often thought of as accompanying instruments.
Right.
But I like to think that in the groups, like if you're in a trio, bass, drums, and saxophone, that you're playing together. Maybe someone is playing more prominently than the others or something, but the roles will shift
100.
during a performance. Whereas, in a lot of jazz playing, the saxophone solos and then the piano solos with the bass, and then everybody stops and the drummer goes for a while, and then but it's always solo and accompaniment,
Yeah.
which I don't have a problem with
Oh no,
fundamentally. But what I am trying to do is think about the group as a unit all the time, and so pulse then becomes really important because you have to be more socially in tune to what the roles are. Uh, um, and what's happening. Some people say that, well, improvised music, it should be egalitarian. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think that shifts within a performance, and then with different groups of people that'll change too. uh,
100%.
but yeah, and so pulse is really important in the sense that you have to really kind of feel out the shifting group dynamic over a course of improvisation, while you're doing it.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that too. And I guess, our last experience together, specifically with Tom's group,
Yeah, that
playing
was a
in the
huge group. Yeah,
huge, and yet it was everything that you just described. I don't think there was if anybody was nervous or about am I listening enough, or I didn't get any of that. I don't think that happened. I think what we
no,
had was a sense of community,
yeah,
a
yeah,
great sense of the
yeah,
pulse of the different personalities. And as it's like sometimes, and I liken it to this, it's like there would be multiple conversations going on, and yet the dynamics of those small conversations within the large sort of conversation, you could say, uh, came out so wonderfully because of the fact that people
yeah,
were so respecting the pulse and
yeah, yeah,
and the moment. And I think that you described that fantastically.
yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. Like listening back to it, there were parts that were denser than others,
For sure.
but there were also plenty of silences. Like how many people were up there? Nine or something?
And I think total.
10? I guess we could count back, but
Yeah.
it was never muddy at any
No.
point. There were places where someone was quote unquote soloing, but
Sure.
that would kind of ebb and flow, and then
Yeah. But that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's okay.
Oh
I like
yeah,
that. And it ends up being, someone soloing and they're creating sheets of sound, or they're
yeah,
literally rattling on something that is just, you have to listen in so carefully,
yeah, yeah,
and it's fantastic. So
yeah. And that was actually one of the more difficult performances I've been involved with too. The
absolutely.
more people you got, the harder it is. Especially
Absolutely.
in that situation, you're not reading any notes on the page. The
Just
harder it is to deal with it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But a joy to do. So
yeah, it was. Yeah,
well, Jonathan, thanks so much for hanging, man. This was great.
Yeah, it was fun.
I
Yeah.
love this. It was wonderful to be able to just have these kinds of conversations. I just love the ebb and flow of this, and I loved your frankness and how you describe things. And I think it's wonderful to have those really sort of committed ideas to things because eventually you just got to take your own course and find your way. And you've
Yeah.
been doing that since you were very young, and I think it's wonderful that your words today can give people different perspectives on things and have them be challenged and or ultimately feel like they're part of a community that as much as we're kind of all out there,
Yeah.
there is a community, and we find each
Yeah.
other eventually, and we hopefully all get a chance to create together
Yeah. Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah. And that's important because we're spread out, aren't we?
we are
Especially in a
spread.
place like Canada, which is
Oh,
spread out. And, especially in the current political environment where it's not good or easy, I won't say good, but not easy or maybe not the smartest thing to go to the States right
oh,
now,
100%.
and yeah, so
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it has put a roadblock in what should be a lot more natural in our ability to be able to connect to our community.
yeah,
And so we have to navigate that in different ways and just trying to find our way through those difficulties to ensure that we're being able to share our voices and commune, right? To
yeah,
have
yeah,
that opportunity to commune. So.
yeah,
Well, thank you, my friend.
yeah.
And I
Thank you,
wanna,
Ron.
yeah, absolutely. I just want to mention again. So go to Bandcamp, check out Jonathan Wilcke on Bandcamp. Download their records. Ensure that you're giving their music an opportunity to find new ears, including yourself. And it's just been such a joy. And I look forward to being able to play music with you again
Yeah,
very soon.
that sounds good. Yeah,
And I just appreciate you being able to take the time today to have this conversation.
yeah. Thanks, Ron. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Jonathan. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds great.